Katal was an average fantasy lover who resigned from his job and now roams across every corner of the world, praying for a chance to be isekai'd into a fantasy world, until one day he wakes up to find himself as a barbarian in the middle of a snowfield. The story begins in a world where the center of it is a snowy white wasteland inhabited by dangerous, vile creatures like white serpents, grizzly gray bears, and even giant rats with fins. There was an emperor in this world who made it out alive from this white wasteland and told the people that the most dangerous thing in the entire place was never the deadly monsters, but the barbarians that lived there. As the scene shifts, a group of barbarians is strolling through this field, splitting monsters in half. Katal, however, does not seem to fit in properly with these simple-minded beings. He complains about how long he has to hang out with them, calling them ignorant brutes, while a lady barbarian begins to drool, asking if this ignorance he is talking about is something they can eat. Katal tells the buffoons he is stuck with to avoid eating a particular monster, as it might kill them. The others end up eating all of it anyway, and instead of worrying, they sparkle up, calling it a noble challenge. The bald barbarian, Greta, suddenly feels nauseated and starts choking really badly. The female barbarian rushes over to check on him and asks him to hold it together, even slapping him hard as he collapses. Katal never wanted to be a barbarian in the first place. He recalls how he used to long for a life full of fantasy in a magical world. He was a mad otaku lover who got angry one day and decided to quit his job. He set off on a journey, leaving his life behind, and traveled all across the globe, climbing Mount Everest, reaching the center of the planet, and even making it to the southernmost point of the globe. Everything went in vain, as it should, because reality and fantasy are two completely separate things. Every night before he slept, he prayed to be reincarnated in a magical world. And one day, the impossible actually happened. As the scene shifts again, a noble's carriage and escorts are passing through the white wasteland for some reason. One of the mercenaries complains of the freezing cold, and a blonde, muscular captain tells him to wear more clothes unless he wants to freeze to death. Another person joins in with the protest, arguing that it is a foolish plan to cross this land, even if the prize is hefty. The blonde captain shuts them up, arguing that they had all already signed up for the mission. The other guy replies that they never thought the situation here would be this bad. Inside the carriage, a butler asks the noble lady of the Akasha family if she is all right. Melina replies with a yes, while an escort outside complains he's going to freeze. The butler finds the intervention pretty rude. However, Melina stops him from being so harsh, as they are the ones who have volunteered as escorts. She even asks the butler to let them in for a while, but the old man refuses, reminding her about the dangers inside this white wasteland. When Melina asks if he means the monsters, the butler tells her about the legend of the emperor who wanted to claim the entire world. For this purpose, the emperor traveled inside the white wasteland alongside numerous warriors and soldiers to conquer it. He stayed there for many decades, and just when his empire collapsed, he returned alone with a stick in his hand. The man had lost all his men and spoke as if he had gone mad. He explained that the wasteland was full of monsters. However, the most dangerous thing there was, not these monsters at all, but the barbarians. The butler, however, adds that this is surely a legend which they cannot be certain about. Melina argues that his words held so much weight, considering many of the monsters he described have already been confirmed to exist in this place. They then discuss that although there has not been a sighting of these barbarians to confirm the legend, some weirdo named Euron told countless tales about these beings. Just then, the captain asks everyone to stop, as he can vividly see someone approaching them. As he could barely catch a glimpse of him, he tells everyone that he had both good and bad news. The good news is that the thing coming toward them is small in size, and the bad news is that he is not certain if it is a human or a barbarian from the emperor's legend. Unexpectedly, when the barbarian approaches them, he politely says that he was just wandering here and there after he got sick of looking at the other barbarians. Katal says that he had not expected that he would run into some outsiders and greets them, saying he is happy to see them. He asks the captain if this is a merchant's carriage and if they are the guards hired to protect it. When the captain confirms this, the ashen barbarian suggests they head back, mocking that he is pretty sure they will not listen to him. Katal goes on to ask if there is someone in the carriage, and while everyone is too scared to utter a single word, the barbarian proposes that he wants to be hired as a mercenary too. The captain asks for confirmation of what Katal meant, and our guy simply repeats himself, explaining that he is offering to help them cross this harsh white wasteland. The captain cannot believe that a barbarian straight out of the legend is asking to join them, and all he wants is to be hired. He asks our big guy if he is not hostile towards him, upon which Catal responds with a bluff that if he were, they would have already hit the grave. The captain asks Milena if she heard all that, asking her for her orders. The lady asks him about the supposed outcome if they were to fight the big guy. And when the blonde captain says that he will not even think about that, Milena asks him to accept the proposal and hire the barbarian. The blonde captain then turns over to the barbarian and tells him that the noble inside the carriage has accepted his proposal. Catal finds it to be really good news, and his smile is enough for everyone to make them wet their pants. Catal tells them to relax and then demands an audience with the one in charge. The captain gets anxious and tells our guy that he will regret it if he tries something. The mercenaries argue that they should stop the ashen barbarian. However, the captain asks them to stop being fools and argues that the employer has already given her consent. As the butler hears that, he freaks out, but Catal politely asks if he is allowed to come inside. Catal gets in and sits next to the butler, which makes the butler pretty uncomfortable. Our boy asks them to chill out, arguing that he has no intention of harming them at all. Lady Milena also appears to be a bit anxious, yet she warmly greets our guy. Catal mentions how warm it is inside and how it must be pretty hard to keep a place like this heated. Milena explains that magic is to blame for this, which gets the otaku lover pretty excited. Catal then tells her that the place is quite dangerous and that there is only a slim chance that they could make it through alive, which is why he is offering to protect their lives. He also mentions that he has one condition, and just like that the entire mood turns tense. Milena keeps herself calm and asks the guy what he wants. The barbarian smirks, and all he requests is knowledge of the world beyond these snowfields. Mina finds it pretty odd, and the barbarian makes it clear that it should not be a bad trade for her. Sweat slips down her face as she realizes she doesn't really have a choice and agrees to the proposal. The butler, however, does not seem to approve of this deal at all. Catal asks the lady about her name, and the lady gently introduces herself as a noble from the house of Akasha. Catal returns the favor and extends his gratitude for their little journey together. Back on Earth, he always dreamed of living in a fantasy world, and one day, that wish weirdly came true. He somehow got woke up as one of those idiotic ashen barbarians stranded on a snowfield. He never got the chance to figure out how it happened, since surviving in a freezing wasteland while fighting non-stop waves of tough monsters was already a nightmare on its own. To stay alive, he pulled those dumb barbarians together, formed a clan, and took the lead. Time flew without warning, and all his escape plans turned out to be useless. But everything changed one day when a system panel suddenly appeared, saying he could finally leave this frozen hell if he completed certain quests. From the very beginning, it felt like some invisible force was keeping him stuck here, and he had nearly lost all hope. Over the years, many outsiders randomly showed up now and then, and from them, he found out that the world outside these cursed snowfields really was full of fantasy and magic, just like he had always imagined. Once he finds that out, he starts putting in even more effort and keeps clearing quest after quest, hoping to finally get out of these cursed fields. He also realizes just how valuable outside information is, which is why he asks Mina to trade some in exchange for helping her group cross through safely. Until now, everyone he met either freaked out or pulled a weapon on him, treating him like a monster. So he's honestly just glad to finally have a normal conversation with someone. The barbarians he was stuck with were completely brain dead, and talking to a proper human being for once actually calms his mind a bit. Out of nowhere, Catal asks the lady if they are transporting weapons. When Milena asks what made him think that, he says he heard the sharp clanging of metal from the wagon, which was a dead giveaway. He then asks her if there is a war going on beyond these frozen lands, and Milena's expression darkens as she confirms that the Empire and the Kingdom are currently locked in battle. She adds that the Empire is huge and trying to conquer the Kingdom, but so far the Kingdom is managing to hold its ground. She credits this to the Swordmaster and the hero who are guarding the borders. Catal seems curious and asks what kind of powers these people have, and Milena, surprised, asks if he seriously has no clue about the mysteries. When our barbarian tells her that he's never stepped out of these snowfields, the lady explains that her knowledge is limited too, but she does know that mystery is a real power in this world. Only a handful of people can actually tap into it, and depending on how far they can go, they're granted one of the 5 ranks of strength. The lowest ranks include those who can simply sense mystery, then those who can use it, and finally, the ones who can fully manifest it into things like mana or aura. Those who can do that are considered first-rate and often hold titles like spirit summoners, mages, or knights. She says the ranks above those aren't something normal humans can understand. So they're just called transcendents, people who can bend mystery with nothing but their will. The Swordmaster is believed to be someone of that level. And then there's the hero, someone said to hold the power to even influence the world itself. Melina adds that even a third-rate person, someone who can barely sense mystery, is still considered powerful. That's when the Ashen Barbarian jumps in, asking to meet such people.